Hey guys, this is Manny Diaz with Pro Photo Supply. Welcome to our YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be doing an overview on the new FX30 from Sony's cinema line. The FX30 is a super 35mm cinema camera. It is able to be purchased both in just the body and in a kit form with a top handle. The top handle has two XLR ports for higher quality audio that you can put through the hot shoe. It screws on just like this. You get a full articulating screen. You get 1/4-20 mounts all around the camera body itself. And it is very similar to Sony's FX3. The battery life on the FX30, you'll roughly get 175 minutes. It is dependent on a couple of variables like how bright you have your LCD screen, kind of what codec you're filming in and whatnot, but give or take about 175 minutes with a full 100% charged NPF 100 battery. With the cinema line, you also get a zoom toggle near your shutter button. That can control any of the Sony power zoom lenses through the toggle. This right here is the f4 power zoom 10-20 made for the super 35mm sensor. So the FX30 is a 26 megapixel sensor. It could do 4K up to 120 frames per second at 422 10-bit. It could also do 4K 60 frames per second playback internally on the display screen. You have dual memory card slots. You get both CF Express Type A and SD compatibility in both the slots. You're going to probably need a V90 card and or CF Express Type A card if you're going to be using the higher end codecs. You get a whole lot of video-centric features that you probably wouldn't see in a regular Alpha 7 series camera. Like for example, we have a full HDMI out, so this is going to be great for any type of streaming. So for people who want to live stream, you can live stream via USB-C now directly into your computer. So if you're a gamer or a podcaster, anything of that sort, it's a very capable tool for streaming. You get the full articulating screen, which by now is just essential in any kind of cinema camera. You have the ability to record in S-Log3. It's awesome to have the option to shoot in S-Log3, but log formats can be really overwhelming for color grading. I'm not a colorist myself, and something I like to shoot in is the S-Cinetone Sony picture profile, which is actually what we're filming on right now. And it's a near finished color graded picture profile, essentially for people who don't want to color grade their footage. You still can edit a little bit, but it's a near finished profile, so there's not really a need to. You also have Sony's new Cine EI feature, which is unique to the FX30. The Cine EI mode will essentially lock you into the proper settings for video production. So let's say you want to shoot in S-Log3. It will simultaneously put you at the native ISO and proper shutter speed in reference to your frames per second, which is a really cool tool, especially if you're just getting started with video production and you don't want to manually enter all those things. I would highly recommend taking advantage of that feature. Another great reason to purchase an FX30 over, let's say, like an FX3 or an FX6, especially if you're just jumping into the video world, is that it's a super 35mm camera. It means it has a smaller sensor than the traditional full frame sensor. So lenses will actually have a different focal length equivalent on this camera. Sony makes lenses in particular for this camera, like the one I have currently on, which is the 10-20 G f4 power zoom. The great thing about any power zoom lens from Sony is it can go on any E-mount camera, but you can control it via the zoom toggle that is next to the shutter button on all the cinema line cameras, which opens a lot of creativity for really anything from documentary work to narrative work. It's a great feature that I like to utilize quite a bit. Also, if you're doing live streaming, let's say for like a sporting event, you could throw a really long lens on here and you have so much room to play with in that regard. So I really like that aspect of the whole Cine line. For people who are doing documentary work, this has 5-axis IBIS. IBIS stands for in-body image stabilization. So it'll compensate for handshake. And given that you get 1/4-20 screws already on the body, you don't even necessarily need to buy a cage. You can mount handles directly onto here. You could also mount a microphone. You could really do whatever you want that would mount to a 1/4-20 screw. Monitors, whatever you'd like. Let's talk about autofocus. As expected, with the FX30, it's amazing. So usually what I'm using is called face registration. In some cameras in the Sony system, it's also called face memory, but it's essentially the next step from the face eye detect. Most of the current cameras on the market will have face eye detect, but what you can do in the Sony cameras is you can actually register people's particular face, and you can register up to 8 of those people. So you go into the photo mode, you take a photo of the person under the AF/MF menu. It'll be face memory, and then you can number who you want to be number 1, number 2, and so forth. Then, if you have that setting on, it will only focus on those particular people. The way it works is it actually is a measurement-based system. So it will literally measure the distance between your eyes, nose, and mouth and understand that at scale and keep it locked on you. You can change the sensitivity of the autofocus from 1 to 5 for how responsive you want it to be. So if you want to do like a slow rack focus between 2 subjects, you could set that at 1, click on the touchscreen, and have it transfer back and forth. This would be a great option for somebody who just wants to dip their toes into high-end video production. It's going to force you to shoot differently given that you don't have an EVF. So most people are going to be using the flip out screen and or external monitor to record. It also has a designated button for things like iris, white balance, peaking, zebra, and these are all very video-centric tools that you don't always get in a hybrid mirrorless camera or a more photo-centric camera. Let's say you're coming from the Canon cinema line. Being that this is also a super 35mm sensor, it's going to be very similar to what you're already used to working on. And at this price point, you know, some of the comparable options, such as, you know, like the Blackmagic cameras, I would opt to get this instead due to the superior autofocus and superior form factor. And Sony gives you the widest lens selection out of any of the manufacturers. So you have 90, actually you have more than 90 E-mount lenses that you can adapt to here. And you have a really healthy amount of super 35mm lenses as well. So overall, this is a great price to value. For $1,800, the features that you get out of this camera are amazing. And it's at a price point where you could actually get into for most newcomers, opposed to having to drop, you know, $4,000 on an FX3. So guys, if you have any questions regarding the FX30, feel free to drop them below in the comment section. You can find us in Northwest Portland and also on Instagram at ProPhotoSupply. All right, guys, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Appreciate everyone watching, and peace out.